Every single year after the NFL season wraps up, the NFL makes a list of the top 100 players of the season. And sometimes they are just so crazily off that I feel like I could even make a video about it. So here we are. What's up, everybody? It's AC Analysis, and today I'm going to be talking about 5 overrated and underrated players from the NFL top 100 list. Players from set 100 to 50. So I'm not going to do any players that are like 50 to 0. Players that have been ranked from 100 to 50. So I have 5 underrated and 5 overrated, and this video might get a little bit longer than usual, but let's just get into it. Coming in the number 5 slot for the most underrated player in the league, we got Lavonte David, a linebacker for the Buccaneers. Lavonte David in the 2019 season got 123 combined tackles and 1 interception and 1 sack. I feel like he is one of the best linebackers in the league, and they only put him at 100. I'm going to even show you this clip right now.
Player who doesn't get enough respect kicks off this year's top 100.
They literally say he's one of the most underrated players in the league, and you tell me that you put him at 100, and this will be our perfect segue to our overrated player, because Lavonte David, I feel like could have been in the 80s. And Eric Kendricks, a linebacker for the Buccaneers, was number 83. And let me just show you his stats compared to Lavonte David. Eric Kendricks got 110 tackles, 0.5 sacks, and basically he just got less stats than Lavonte David did, and you put him 17 slots higher? That just makes no sense whatsoever. Lavonte David is a way better linebacker than Eric Kendricks. Maybe Eric Kendricks could have been 100, and Lavonte David could have been 83. By the way, because I get it, maybe they put the Vikings there because they won more, but I feel like Lavonte David was just better in general, and because of that, I feel like Lavonte David is underrated, Eric Kendricks is overrated. The next underrated player on our list is Davante Adams. With only playing 12 games in the season, he got 997 yards on 83 receptions for 5 touchdowns. That is a great season for missing 4 games, and I think they might have only put him at the number 57 slot because of the pure fact that he missed 4 games, but you can't put him at 57. He is a top 40, top 30 player no matter what. And if he didn't miss 4 games, I feel like he might have been able to be a top 20 player. But now, let's compare it to OBJ, who I feel like was overrated. OBJ was only 2 slots under Davante Adams, and with OBJ this season got 74 receptions for 1,035 yards and 4 touchdowns. And that was with playing 16 games. So you're telling me that OBJ is only supposed to be 2 slots under Davante Adams when he got as good of stats as Davante Adams in 4 more games. So I feel like it's a little bit of a popularity contest more than who's better. But so yeah, I think OBJ is overrated, Davante was underrated. Okay, and our next underrated player will be Darren Waller. Darren Waller of the Raiders is one of the best tight ends in the league, and you're telling me that he only deserves to be number 99? Darren Waller had a great season, 90 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Those are some great stats, and we all know Travis Kelce is going to be in the top 20, and if you look at Kelce's stats, he only got 7 more receptions and only got 100 more yards. So looking at this, I do not see why Darren Waller is so low. He was a difference maker. I think he's like 6'6", like 250, and I don't think he deserves to be this low because he had a great season, and comparing to the other tight ends, he compares up very well to them. This is why I feel like Darren Waller was underrated. Okay, now this is the one that I think will anger most people, and it's got me tripping a bit too. Todd Gurley had on 223 rushing attempts, got 857 yards, and they thought that he was the 51st best player in the league. Let's just compare him to another player that was on this list. He was number 92 on the list, Chris Carson, on 278 attempts, which is just like 50 attempts more. He had 1,200 yards, and they only put him at 92, and then they put Todd Gurley at 51. At this point, it's just a popularity contest, and I'm betting that Mr. Antonio Brown's going to be in the top 5 because, like, you put a player who wasn't even a top 10 back in the league, not even a top 200 player in the league, at 51, just for the popularity, I guess. Like, it makes no sense. He was injured this season. He just got, like, no yards at all. So because of this, I think, and I'm hopefully everyone in the world thinks, that he was crazy, crazy overrated. The next underrated player on this list is Chris Jones of the KC Chiefs. This year, Chris Jones was the entire backbone of the KC Chiefs defense that took them to the Super Bowl. And he had good stats. He had 36 combined tackles and 9 sacks, and he was clearly good enough to get about a $90 million contract. So this one, people may be okay with where he is, but I feel like he should be higher because of the difference that he made, and the difference that he made was just enough for him to be high enough for me, and they only put him at 52. To me, that's disrespectful. You think that he was worse than Todd Gurley at 51? No. That is why I feel like Chris Jones should be way higher. Okay, now this is the next overrated player, and I feel like this one's disputable, but Josh Allen, I feel like, was overrated this year. He had 3,000 yards and 20 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. 20 touchdowns to 9 interceptions isn't necessarily the greatest ratio, but my biggest problem is the fact that you put a quarterback at number 82 when he only had 3,000 yards and a completion percentage of 55. This is why I feel like he was a little bit overrated. He might not be able to even make the list in my opinion, but he could be like in the very high 90s. But this lot's okay. I just think he could have been a little higher up than where he was. Higher up meaning that like he was higher towards like 99 instead of going like, you get the point. Okay, now comes one of the players that I feel like was one of the most underrated. Jalen Smith, a middle linebacker for the Cowboys, was rated at 88. You're telling me that this guy is only at 88. He got 142 tackles and 2.5 sacks and an interception. He was so good this year, and I do not think he deserves to be this low. He was the complete backbone of a Cowboys defense that looked promising for next year, and he does not deserve to only be at 88. 142 tackles, that's crazy. Jalen Smith had the 5th most tackles in this entire season, and you're telling me that he's only 88th? He had 142 tackles, and that's crazy, and the people that are ahead of him are barely ahead of him by like nothing. So I feel like that he could easily have been a top 60 player, but instead they put him at 88, and they still decided to put Todd Gurley at 51. Okay, this one might also be a little controversial. My opinion, Jimmy G was overrated. I feel like he was put at the number like 42 spot, and I don't feel like he should have been that high. I think he could have been he could have been in the 60s, because he got 4,000 yards, 100 passer rating, 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Those are good stats, very good stats for the season, but I don't feel like they're top 40 stats of the season compared to some of the other quarterback stats. And Jimmy G, I feel like the reason he was so high is because his team won, but the main reason his team won is that they had a good defense. So maybe he was a bit overrated, but I'm completely okay if you feel like he deserves to be where he's at. Well, that wraps up today's video. Thank you guys all for watching. This has been AC Analysis on top 5 underrated and overrated players from the NFL Top 100 list, players 100 to 50. That's a lot to say. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. I'll be back on once every 2 days. Thanks for the support, and see you next time.